Let's go back to a dusty parking lot in Yosemite Valley. It's the 1980s. Two of the world's greatest climbers face off. They were once brothers, forged on 3,000-foot walls of granite. Now, they're bitter rivals. This wasn't a fight over money or even fame. It was a battle for the very soul of their sport. A conflict sparked by a single defiant act. A hammer blow that echoed from the canyon walls. One man had just chopped the other's bolts. It was a declaration of war in their vertical world. To understand how a brotherhood this strong could shatter, you first have to understand the revolution they started, and the outlaw collective they called the Stonemasters. The early 1970s in America was a time of deep unrest. The nation was fractured by the Vietnam War. A generation of young people had lost faith in the system. They rejected the conformity of their parents' world. They searched for freedom, for meaning, and for an escape. Some found it in music, others in protest. But a small, restless group found it on the sun-baked walls of Southern California. Climbing wasn't just a sport to them, it was also a rejection of the mainstream. A way to live life by their own rules, under an open sky. They called themselves the Stonemasters, and they invented a lifestyle to match their rebellion. It was called being a dirtbag, and it was a badge of honor. As time went on, they would live in beat-up cars and even sleep in the dirt. They survived on cheap canned food and the leftovers from tourists. The only currency that mattered was time on the rock. And this existence wasn't just about being poor. It was about being rich in a way that truly mattered to them. A total, unwavering devotion to climbing. This devotion was built on a revolutionary idea. At the time, the world's biggest cliffs were conquered using aid climbing. Climbers used gear like ropes and ladders to pull themselves upward. The rock was just a ladder to the top. The Stonemasters saw this as a stepping stone. Their creed was free climbing, meaning gear only for safety, like to catch a fall. Progress up the rock came only from your hands and feet on the rock itself. This wasn't just a new technique, it was a radical philosophy for the time. A purer, more athletic, and far more difficult way to climb. It was the difference between conquering a mountain and dancing with it. Their proving ground started at Suicide Rock at Stony Point. Here, they pushed the limits of what was possible. They established new routes of terrifying difficulty. One climb, a formidable 3-pitch route named Valhalla, became the informal entrance exam. If you could climb Valhalla, you could be a Stonemaster. At the time, this route was considered very difficult, and they were building a new kind of athletic royalty. But Southern California was just the training ground. Soon, they would take their revolution to the grandest stage on Earth. Yosemite Valley was a cathedral of climbing. Its massive granite walls, like the 3,000-foot El Capitan, were the ultimate test. For the Stonemasters, arriving in the early 70s was a pilgrimage. They brought their talent, their attitude, and their revolutionary philosophy to the sport's biggest stage. But their chaotic, youthful energy needed a leader. They found one in Jim Bridwell. Known as the Bird, Bridwell was the elder master of Camp 4. He was a link between the old guard of climbers and this new explosive generation. Part shaman, part drill sergeant, he was a visionary with a wild spirit. His tent in the campground became the tribe's center. Bridwell saw the raw talent of the Stonemasters, and he knew exactly how to unleash it on Yosemite's giant walls. In May of 1975, they made their statement to the world. John Long, John Backer, and Ron Kauk completed the first free ascent of a route called Astroman. It was a stunning 11-pitch climb of relentless difficulty. For the first time, a massive wall had been climbed in pure, free climbing style. The route was immediately recognized as the new global benchmark. It was a benchmark that would stand for over a decade. The Stonemasters had started a new era. They were just getting started though. Mere days later, they attempted the impossible. The most famous rock in the world, the nose on El Capitan. The first ascent in 1958 had taken 45 days of effort. Most teams still spent a week slowly battling their way up its face. Bridwell, along with John Long and Billy Westbay, decided to climb it in a single day. They pushed through the night, moving with incredible speed and efficiency. In 17 hours and 45 minutes, they stood on the summit. They had transformed a week-long siege into a lightning-fast athletic sprint. The discipline of big wall speed climbing was born in that moment. The climbing world was left in absolute shock. The Stonemasters hadn't just joined the ranks of the elite, they had reimagined what everyone thought was impossible. In the span of a few weeks, this band of outsiders had conquered the valley. Their philosophy was no longer a fringe idea, it was the new standard. They were the undisputed kings of the vertical world, living gods of granite. And their reign at the top would be even more wild, more chaotic, and more glorious than anyone could imagine. By the late 1970s, the Stonemasters were no longer just climbers, a pantheon of gods ruling from their granite kingdom. Their camp was at the center of the universe, attracting new climbers from all over the world. And at the heart of this collective was a core group of superstars, each one a unique force of nature. There was John Backer, the fierce purist. He was a physical prodigy who trained with an almost religious devotion. Backer treated climbing not as a hobby but more like a martial art. His friendly rival was Ron Kauk, a climber of immense natural talent and fluid grace. While Backer's power came from relentless training, Kauk seemed to flow from instinct. Together, they were an unstoppable force. The voice of the movement was John Long. Articulate and educated, he became the tribe's master storyteller. His articles in climbing magazines spread their ethos across the globe. He translated their vertical adventures into compelling human stories. And then there was Lynn Hill, the trailblazer. In a sport dominated by men, she was an equal. Her incredible technique and creativity allowed her to solve problems on the rock that stumped stronger climbers. She wasn't just the best female climber, she was one of the best climbers, period. This group ruled a kingdom built on skill, not money. But in the winter of 1977, that was about to change for some of them. A smuggling plane carrying 6,000 pounds of marijuana crashed into a remote, frozen lake. Word of the wreck trickled down to the perpetually broke climbers of Camp 4. It ignited a modern-day gold rush. They organized secret expeditions into the backcountry. They returned with backpacks overflowing with their prize. The weed was often soaked in airplane fuel from the plane's ruptured tanks. Sometimes it would flare up when lit, singeing the eyebrows of the smoker. Overnight, the dirtbag economy was turned upside down. Climbers who survived on scraps were suddenly flush with cash. They bought new cars and treated each other to steak dinners. But the sudden wealth brought new problems. It attracted the attention of dangerous drug dealers and federal law enforcement. Their outlaw sanctuary was no longer a secret. Even amidst this new chaos, their dominance on the rock continued. If you are interested in the full story, check out a video we did recently on this topic. In the heart of Camp 4, Ron made his first ascent of a boulder problem named Midnight Lightning. It became the most famous and iconic boulder challenge in the world. The distinctive lightning bolt symbol on the rock was drawn in chalk by John Backer himself. It was a symbol of their shared vision and partnership at its absolute peak. But the forces that made them great, their fierce independence and uncompromising beliefs, were also planting the seeds of their destruction. The world had discovered the Stonemasters, and the pressure of the outside world would soon expose the cracks forming within. The fame, the money, the attention, it all began to take a toll. The world was discovering Yosemite, and it brought new ideas with it. Ideas that would test the Stonemasters' simple code, and ignite a conflict that would tear their brotherhood apart. The schism started with a trip to Europe. Ron traveled overseas and witnessed the birth of a new movement. It was called sport climbing. The philosophy was different. It prioritized pure athletic difficulty above all else. Climbers would practice moves on a rope from above, called top rope, before leading a route. They would place bolts from the top down, ensuring smaller and safer falls. It made climbing safer and more like a gymnastics performance. To John Backer, the unyielding purist, this was a way of pulling the sport from its roots. For him, the soul of climbing was in the adventure, the ground-up uncertainty, the risk, the mental challenge. That was everything. He believed these new tactics sanitized the experience. They were a, quote, dilution of the sport's ethos. They took the soul of the climb, turning a spiritual journey into a sterile exercise. He saw it as a betrayal of the very freedom they had fought for. This philosophical Cold War turned hot when Ron returned to Yosemite. He put his new ideas into practice on a new route. He bolted it from the top down. He named the climb Punchline. For Bakker, this was a huge insult, a foreign ideology being drilled into the sacred granite of his home. It was a line in the sand, so Bakker drew his own line. In a stunning act of protest, he took a hammer to the wall, and he chopped Ron's bolts. One by one, he rendered the route unclimbable to sport climbers. It was a deeply symbolic act. He didn't see it as vandalism. It was a rejection of Ron's new philosophy, a declaration that this new way was not welcome here. Word of the chopped bolts spread like wildfire. The dispute escalated from a debate into a feud. It finally erupted in the Camp 4 parking lot. The heart of their kingdom became a battleground. Heated words boiled over into shoves and punches. The brotherhood forged on the world's most dangerous walls was broken, shattered by a conflict over principles. This was more than a fight between two men, though. It was a civil war for the future of climbing. And in a dusty parking lot, an era came to a violent end. The Stonemasters as a unified force were finished. The only question left was what would rise from the ashes. After the fight, the magic in the area was gone. The unified collective of the Stonemasters scattered to the winds. The core figures went their separate ways. Some, like Ron, pushed the athletic limits of sport climbing. Others, like Bakker, held true to the old traditions. And to make it worse, this era was also ended by another profound tragedy. In 1980, Tobin Sorensen, one of the group's boldest and most visionary members, died in a fall. His death during a solo attempt in the Canadian Rockies sent a shockwave through the community. It was a brutal reminder of the high price of their passions. The age of youthful invincibility was over. A year later, John Bakker made one last defiant statement. He tacked a note to the Camp 4 board, offering $10,000 to anyone who could keep up with him for a day. No one took the challenge. It was the final roar of the old guard, a testament to the ethos of adventure that was already fading into legend. So who won the Civil War? Well, in a way, they both kind of did. The feud between Bakker and Ron wasn't the end of a philosophy. It was the violent birth of two different ones. From their conflict, the modern disciplines of traditional and sport climbing were born. And the Stonemasters' central revolutionary idea, free climbing, became the global standard. They had lost their unity, but their ideas had conquered the world. Their legacy is more than just a list of routes. It's in the DNA of every modern adventure sport. From snowboarding to base jumping, the rebellious spirit of the Stonemasters lives on. They were a gang of misfits who lived and slept in the dirt. And for a brief, glorious moment, they showed the entire world a way to be free. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you'd like to support our team, check out our Patreon and have your name shown in the credits. We really appreciate all our patrons. You are making this dream and these videos possible. Go check out the link in the description and sign up to become a patron today. And if you want to rep some awesome outdoor gear, check out the Outdoor Origins store. Your support will one day help us make all sorts of gear right here in the United States. And if you liked this video, you will absolutely love the next one showing on the screen right now. It's exactly what we think you'll want to see next. Thanks for being a part of the Outdoor Origins community, and we'll see you in the next one.